everyone, my name is Sammy, and today I'm going to talk about like before and after of what it's like when you kind of realize you're a 5-1 projector, and what it's like once you've had time to kind of recognize that, and what roles it's played differently compared to when I first found out compared to now. I know I've had a lot of feedback on my 5-1 profile video, so I thought having a video where I kind of updated what it's like when you kind of know how to navigate that 5-1 aspect of you and how it feels differently now and more manageable than when I first found out. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. It means the world to me that so many of you guys have resonated with those videos, because when I first started this channel, I really did it because I felt like no 5-1 person was like being as vulnerable as they could, because it was like we're taught this language that 5-1 profiles need to be so sure and use that one-line investigator and like be so sure of what they're doing. And as a projector, I felt like I had to be even more sure and only be using my invitations and blah blah blah, and I got myself so sidetracked and almost like less assured of myself than I was prior. And I had to kind of work through why I was feeling that way and kind of come to my own conclusion and come to human design on my own terms, if that makes sense. Because so much of the language in human design can catch people off guard, or they get stuck in their head about one meaning about one thing in particular. And if I've learned anything over learning human design, I learned human design from different perspectives and from different places on purpose, so I could understand it from those different viewpoints and then put my own spin on what it meant for me, instead of just going by what one definition is. Because as we know, human design is an experience. It's all about the lived experience of each individual person, and every individual person is going to view and see things differently. That's the most beautiful part of it. I'm pretty sure Ross said that, like, you know, if there was only one person, like one way of viewing things, there would only be one person, like one human being. And so it's like we do need to acknowledge the fact that yes, it came from someone, and yes, like there are specific people that teach it and have these classes that might be well known, but it's important for you to respect your own narrative in this and to not give in to what other people are telling you to do, because it's not their experience, it's your own. If you are working with someone through human design, make sure that you state that this is your own experience. I am a 5-1, and as many of you people who might be watching are as well. So for me, it was really hard being that vulnerable to someone else, because I felt like all they were going to see is the projections. I felt like all of that they were going to see, even in my chart, was not really going to be me. And that is kind of true in a lot of ways, because 5-1, specifically those profiles, they're going to really be okay with who they are and really know that deep down. And it's hard to recognize at first, because, you know, I had a lot of insecurities I was constantly projected on. But the more I learned human design, and really the more I learned to love myself, was when I stopped looking outward and I started looking inward. And even if you're a projector, because I'm a projector, I still had to look inward and to navigate what all this meant for me. And when I was living like in my body, living inward and kind of watching the experiences around me, especially when I'm with other people, I could more easily navigate like who had good intentions, or like who was really seeing me and who wasn't. The one thing I will say that is different within me now is that I've accepted the fact that not everyone's gonna see me for who I am, and all I can do is just be happy with it within myself. I think that we spend so much time trying to prove ourselves to other people. Even if you're a projector, I see that a lot as well. And I see those things within me now. Like, people talk about deconditioning as if you can't tell when you're not being yourself, but like it still pops up. There's gonna be moments when I'm like, why did I say that? That's not me. And it's more about recognizing the difference rather than trying to feel like you have to be perfect at it. And once you can just recognize that and kind of come back to who you are and kind of like sit on things and acknowledge them and feel like you're living in your truth, then like it's a lot easier to start noticing who is best suited around you, who you want to be close with, who you feel like might just be an acquaintance, or people who don't have good intentions. One of the biggest things that I will say is different in my life now, in like my 3D reality, is that I don't have a lot of people who are really, let me see how I want to say this. I have a lot of people that are struggling that might come to me, but are coming to me on like almost a higher frequency of like, they're in this like this moment of like growth, and like they are ready to go, and they're like literally working through this, maybe like this last little bit that they need to, or like they're so above the mundane, almost like toxic traits that maybe used to come into my life more. And it's not that I was a toxic and I was like being like, I was just like creating more toxicity around me. It was that I was so insecure that everyone, like, I mean, energy vampires just came and constantly were around me. And so when you get yourself out of this victim mentality, and yes, if you are a 5-1, I'm sorry, this sucks to hear, but you really have to get out of that victim mentality, because you have to stand on your own 2 feet, because you are strong enough, and deep down you know that you are. You know you will never be satisfied with whatever anyone tells you that you are. You know deep down that you have what it takes, and the courage and the guts and the strength to stand on your own. But sometimes that means having to completely rebuild your own reality, completely rebuild all the stuff that the world has taught you, completely rebuild the way that you view yourself, because that's when change happens. You know, I feel like lately a lot of my videos have been about this idea of growth and change, because I don't want human design to be the only thing. Human design is a part of it, but there's so much growth that takes place behind the curtains, behind the numbers, the 5-1, the projector, the 11th gate that I had. There's so many other things and factors that go beyond the chart, you know what I'm saying? And so it's having to put in the work even when you don't feel like it. And trust me, I'm a 5-1 emotional projector. I don't feel like it 80% of the time. But I still know that when I do stuff, or I do take care of myself. Another big thing I've learned is just like being okay with not always being on, if that makes sense. Like I always felt this need to be like, oh my God, like, hi, how are you? You know, just this like almost like when I was a server, it was almost like that attitude of like, hi, my name is Sammy. Like, what can I get for you to drink? Like in that tone where my voice almost goes up an octave. Like that feeling, like that customer service kind of mentality was like how I was all the time. And I realized it was that I was so afraid of disappointing people, or so afraid of like my first interactions with people, because I knew how valuable they were. But I was so afraid of letting them down. But instead, I needed to start thinking about myself. Like I never thought about myself being disappointed, if that makes sense. Like I was always like so worried and so caught up in what the other person was thinking about me, that I didn't even recognize whether I was happy being around that person or not. And 9 times out of 10, it would end up being someone who wasn't right for me. The people that I feel like I've always stayed close with, or that have come into my life and I feel close with, are people that I've noticed myself being so comfortable talking to them. You know, it wasn't like this manipulative, like, oh, I feel like I'm saying too much. It was like, I just felt really free and comfortable to be myself. And those are people that I feel like I know I can get close to. But it's also being okay with knowing like maybe this isn't the right person to be close with, and kind of backing away from that situation. I feel like for a long time I had this need to have everyone like me, you know? And I just don't have that anymore. That's like the biggest thing. It's just like you either love it or you leave it. You love it or you hate it. You like, it's one or the other. And I think that part is the hardest part for like the 5-1 aspect. It's like realizing you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like, it's hard. You know, it is hard because not everybody nobody really wants to admit that to themselves like fully, but you kind of have to as a 5-1 profile, especially if you're a projector, because otherwise you're going to constantly struggle with whether or not who you are is projections or who you actually are. When you spend more time worrying about what the other person thinks of you, you end up morphing into that other person. You end up wanting to do things to please them rather than actually be yourself. So it is like incredibly vital for you to know the difference between your own energy and the energy of others. The other big thing I've learned as a 5-1, and probably the last thing I will talk about, is I have learned to be in the body. Now, I've previously mentioned this, but I want to mention it again because I think it's really, really important, is that we're not always in our head. Like, we're not always thinking about, or I'm not always thinking about, like, what does that person think, or what's going to happen now, or who am I, or start questioning myself, or giving myself too much information. Like, my one line, yes, it is important for me to have like information, but it's subconscious too, and remember that. So it's not always about the details. It's about feeling confident in whatever it is that you're doing. And if you have that confidence, that doesn't go away. You're bold, you're strong as a 5-1, and you know what you're good at and what you aren't. You don't need anyone else to tell you that. But sometimes I think we can psych ourselves out based on the projections, or based on the fear of getting more projections. Based on the fear that, okay, well, if I do well in this and I am successful, then what? Then what are they going to expect of me? But the thing you have to remember is to get out of your mind and just be in the body, because anything that comes easy to you when you're in that state is nothing that is going to go away from you. And also just remembering that, yes, sometimes, especially if you're an emotional authority, you're gonna feel the highs and lows of this stuff, right? It's not always gonna be like sunshine and rainbows. But it's about trusting yourself and having confidence in yourself. Like, that is really it. And that confidence doesn't come from the outside appearance that other people might see, or come from the confidence that they tell you you should have in it. It's the confidence that you feel inside yourself. Because even if everyone in the world is shouting at you that you can't do this, if you believe that you can, then you can. And that is the most beautiful thing about being a 5-1. We're here to be, and to be bold and brave and pave a way and be a light and just be ourselves, because that is what people are drawn to. Just be yourself, because that is the most beautiful thing that you can do. All right, well, I feel like I got really intense there, but thanks again for watching. I hope that this was helpful as far as my journey goes. I just feel like I wanted to update you all as well, and to also remind you that I'm on this journey with you guys as well. So, you know, wherever you're at on your journey, if you're new to human design, or if you're, you know, a few months in, a year, 2, 3, 5, I hope that this was helpful, and I can't wait to share more with you guys. All right. Bye. And don't forget to comment below if you feel you want to share something you've learned as a 5-1 or a projector or whatever. Even if you're not those, you can still share. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.